Have you ever felt like issue spotting isn't the best or most efficient way to write an essay when it comes to the bar exam? If so, you're correct about that, and in today's video, I'll explain to you why and what to do instead. I'm Jackson Mumey, the owner and founder of Celebration Bar Review, and for the past 25 years, I've helped thousands of bar takers, people just like you, to make their next bar exam the last bar exam. If you want to know more about how we do that, check out the links on this page after this video. Welcome to our discussion of the top 10 myths about the bar exam, and today we're talking about myth number 3. It's a big one, and it should tell you that we're getting into the heart of it now. This myth is dear to a lot of bar takers, and it's all about issue spotting. I suppose if I had to say what title I'd give this discussion, it would be, I need to spot all the issues. But you shouldn't. That's a myth. Here's the problem with issue spotting, and it's fundamental. The problem essentially is that most people cannot define what the word issue means. Now you might say, well, that's sort of silly. I mean, everyone knows what an issue is, sort of like Potter Stewart and pornography, I guess. But I would challenge you this way. If you and I went issue spotting, hunting for issues, if you will, and I sort of have a picture of Elmer Fudd in my mind, and I said to you, tell me, what am I looking for? I think you would find it very hard to define or describe to me what a legal issue really is. I say that because for more than 25 years, I've been asking students to help me understand what that word means, and I've received absolutely no satisfactory answer in that period of time. Well, here's some of the things people say. Well, it's a legal problem. It's a legal conflict or a quandary. It's a legal rule of law. It's an issue. Yeah, that's the problem. It's defined by itself. A word defined by itself becomes an endless loop. An issue is an issue is an issue. Now, I recognize that most people grew up on issue spotting somewhere during their law school career. But I would dare say that before you went to law school, no matter where you were in the world or what you were doing, you never even heard of issue spotting. But there you were in law school, there was your professor in your first year who terrified you and said, you must spot all the issues. Why? What? What does that even mean? The truth is, it meant something different for everybody that was reading and everybody that was writing. How often did you walk out of an exam, maybe even a bar exam, and say, I don't know if I spotted all the issues? It would be hard to do that, wouldn't it, since you don't even know what an issue is? You see, I think the word issue is essentially a placeholder. It's a piece of sloppy language that we use to talk about anything that might be problematic. And here's the danger in writing or talking about things that are problematic when it comes to the bar exam. Unlike your law school exams, this is not a 4 or 5 hour test on one subject that you've studied for 18 weeks or 36 weeks, a semester or two. This is a 30-minute or 45-minute or maybe even a 1-hour essay as part of an overall proficiency to practice law exam. Now, the bar examiners certainly can't be interested in whether or not you can spot all of the issues, whatever that means for this subject, in that limited amount of time. So there has to be a way to narrow down what they're interested in, and here's how they do it. In my experience, the examiners write questions that create disputes or conflicts or problems to be resolved between the parties. That's the way the questions are actually drafted. It's the skill that's being tested, as we talk about in some of the other myths, and it's a different skill than you might need to utilize in a multi-state question or on a performance test. But the skill essentially here for an essay is, can you take the law as you know and understand it and make an argument on both sides of the dispute using that law? Now, if you replace the word issue spotting with the word dispute or the word conflict, you have the essence, I think, of a much better piece of work. If instead of trying to spot all the issues, you try to spot all the conflicts in the question, then you're talking about a defined set, a actual pragmatic group of problems that you can work on. Now you know when the parties are in conflict or when they're not. Let me give you a basic example. Let's say that you've got a contracts hypothetical question. And in this question, you're told by the exam writer that a contract exists between plaintiff and defendant, and that the defendant has already acknowledged that they're going to breach the contract. Rationally, you would know that this is probably a remedies question. It's not really a contracts problem. But if you're an issue spotter, here's the way that you're taught to think about it. Well, I see the word contract mentioned there, so I better talk about all the elements of contract formation: offer, acceptance, consideration, bargain for consideration, and so on, right? Then you would think to yourself, well, I also see that there's a breach. I better talk about what is required for a breach. And I'll talk through all the elements of breach, and then, well, maybe if I've got time, I'll get to the remedies. But wait a minute. The examiners didn't want you to write about the contract or the breach. They gave you all that. They told you there's a valid contract and it's going to be breached. They want you to write about what's in dispute, and what's in dispute between these parties in this problem are the remedies. Or think about it this way. Let's say that instead of a bar exam or a law school hypothetical, now you're actually going to court in that same contracts problem and you're representing the plaintiff. You walk into court on Monday morning and you say, "Judge, glad to be here in the matter of plaintiff versus defendant. I want to begin by telling you that we're going to go through all the elements of contract today, and then tomorrow at trial we'll go through all the elements having to do with breach, and on Wednesday we'll get to the remedies part of our case." Wait a minute, counselor. It's stipulated that there was a contract, and it's stipulated there's a breach. What are you doing? Well, Your Honor, I learned in law school and from my big box bar review that I have to go through all the elements because that way I'm spotting issues. Hey, are you nuts? The judge has got things to do. The jury's got things to do. Other counsel's got things to do. Your client's got things to do. Why are you going through all of that? You would never be allowed to do it. And if you're not allowed to do it in practice, then let me ask you a simple question. Why would the bar examiners reward that behavior on their test? Why would they say, you just go ahead now, spot all the issues, and then we'll pass you so you can go do that in practice? Doesn't make any sense, does it? Now, I know what some of you are thinking, and I know that this is a real sacred cow to a lot of bar takers and law students. And I have been banged around on the law boards, the internet and Google and other places because I don't teach issue spotting. I wear that badge pretty proudly, but here's really what happens. The people that issue spot and then try to write about the issues that cover everything that their brains can come up with in the exam, along the way, some of them manage to cover enough conflicts and disputes that they do get a passing score. I get that. But there's a difference between causation and correlation. A lot of those people wore blue jeans to the exam. You think their blue jeans caused them to pass? Probably not. There's not causation, there's just correlation. You see, here's the interesting part to me. When you compare our pass rates over the last 20 plus years to the Big Box Bar Review, or even to the state official pass rates, where issue spotting is by far the norm, I would say far more than 90% of the bar takers issue spot, we're typically 20, 30, 40% or more higher than those pass rates. Well, I wonder why that is. Do we teach different law? Of course not. Do we teach some secret or trick? Well, not really. We just tell people to write about what's in dispute. It seems to me that if you know what you've got to write about, it's a whole lot easier to spend your time, using my contracts example, writing about the remedies for 30 or 45 minutes or an hour, instead of spending half of that time or 3/4 of that time writing about things that really don't matter. Then in your overeager attempt to put everything on the paper, maybe you get lucky enough to put some of the disputes that the examiners are actually looking for. And then what happens is that you walk away from the bar with your membership in hand and you say, that issue spotting, it worked really well. No, it didn't. Here's a news flash. You aren't going to issue spot in practice. You're not going to issue spot in any environment except unless you become a law school teacher. Interesting philosophy, interesting approach, really. So you might say, why do the big box bar reviews teach issue spotting? Well, it's really very simple. It's a matter mostly of economics. It's much easier to get students to just do what they've been doing, to know that your bar pass rate isn't going to change much one way or the other, because if you're the big box bar review, you are the bar pass rate. And so you tell people, issue spot like crazy, knock yourself out, write about everything, and maybe you'll cover something that actually matters. You see, that's not really a strategy. It's just an approach that is economically easy, and frankly, it's the simple and I think intellectually lazy way to go. That approach has not worked well for most people, and we don't think it'll work well going forward either. Our students do so much better because they don't write that way, they don't think that way, they go to the heart of the problem. So you see, this is a pretty important myth. If what you're trying to do is just write about whatever comes in your brain, what rules you can memorize and recite, as we've talked about elsewhere, if you're just issue spotting, then you're doing the legal equivalent of a game called three-card Monte. Now, I need to tell you, if you're not familiar with this game, many years ago, when I was in New York City and living in Manhattan, I used to see these guys on the street corner. They'd have a little table set up and they'd have 3 cards. 2 of them were black and 1 was red. The cards were dealt face down and you put your money down. The game was really simple. All you had to do was to find the 1 red card. The dealer would show you the red card and then shuffle them around, and you just picked the one that was red. But here was the problem. The 3-card Monte dealer was actually very good at picking up that red card in the middle of the shuffle and replacing it with a 3rd black card. You know what that means? You never won. It didn't matter which card you picked, it was going to be black. You see, you couldn't win that game. In the same way, you can't really win at issue spotting because you never know what it is you're looking for. If you're looking for conflicts or disputes, those are real, they're tangible. You can put your arms around them, you can see them, you can feel them, you can write about them, you can make arguments. But if you're issue spotting, you're really relying on what you've memorized, what you can recite, what you hope might be out there. You know, we've all heard people say, oh man, I don't think I spotted all the issues on that test, but I hope I got enough of them to pass. That's a pretty terrible way to go through the bar exam when the stakes are this high. So I strongly encourage you, no matter what bar review course or approach you're taking, to avoid issue spotting. It is not a good way to take the test. It's not a good way to write an essay. It's not something you're going to do in practice, and it has no value once you've left law school. For that reason alone, you should really think about what you're doing when you write your essay. Think about what the examiners were doing when they wrote the question, and then deliver a response that actually replies to what they're asking, that gives the response that they're seeking. Don't play 3-card Monte with the bar examiners. You can't win. You can't write about every possible issue because, to go back to where we started, you can't even define the term. Well, you can see that we're on a roll here, and this was myth number 3. We've got lots more ahead of us, so stick around. We will get to all of those soon. I hope that this is helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next video in the series.